Hey everybody, welcome to the Eco Hub, and this video is our first full-length video, and I wanted to make a guide to help you guys just get your bearings in plant identification, because I know that when I first started doing it in undergrad, it was kind of hard for me to first grasp, and then once I started getting a common an algorithm, if you want to call it, towards plant identification, it helped a lot. First, we'll touch on, it is so drastically easier to ID plants in the spring and summer because they're flowering and they're growing. If you are out in a cold weather climate and you're in fall and you're just trying to figure out what this vine is and it's got no leaves, nothing on it, I'm sorry, but that's going to be hard. Now, can't say you can't, but it's going to be very hard. So you'd want to be pretty good at keying already, and we'll touch on keying in a moment. But first and foremost, number one, we're going to write down right here, flowers. Find flowers. Look at the flowers. They are the best, number one, upper echelon. That is what's going to tell you what something is the flowers. Put that down right here. Flowers. You want to look at the petals, the sepals, the tepals, how many stamen are there, what they look like, the way the pollen is dispersed. The shape and structure of the flower can tell you everything. If the stem is hollow but sturdy, it could be that it's a wetland plant and it's supposed to keep the flower afloat when it falls off. If the flower has covered stamen, it's for getting insects to push in. If it's got a long tube for the flower, it could be for hummingbirds. There are so many different things, but the flower is always numero uno, number one. That is the best way to identify a plant, is by its flowering. Let's say it's not flowering. Number two, always leaves. And with leaves, you always want to look at growth pattern and then the shape of the leaf. So there are several different growth patterns. There's alternate, opposite, world. And then when you get into those, it's also what pattern of world. Is it 3, 4? What kind of alternate pattern? What kind of leaf is it? Is it a simple leaf? Is it a compound leaf? Where a compound leaf is one that has many, like a fern, where each one of those big fronds is one leaf. That's a compound leaf. Or is it like an oak tree, where it's just one big leaf? And with that, there's lobes. How many lobes does the leaf have? Is it 3, 4? So you want to look at the leaf anatomy. If you get good at your leaf anatomy, you're in the clear. Because personally, that's one of my favorite parts of plants, is the leaves. And once you get good at noticing the venation and the coloring and what the glaburousness, the shininess of the leaf can tell you, you will be leaps and bounds down the path of easy, fast plant identification. So number two is leaves. Because that is just huge. Now, let's say that you're down that path, but you want to know anything else. The other big thing is structure. Is it a vine? Is it woody? Is it herbaceous? Is it sort of woody at the base and herbaceous later on? Is it growing up? Is it growing on the ground? Is it doing both? So structure is a huge portion. And with structure, we're also going to add in there is location. Because I feel like both of those are synonymous of, you're not going to find an oak tree growing through a sidewalk crack. Acorn can't get down there. So location is also paramount. Now, can you see the sucker of a cherry tree pushing through a sidewalk crack? Well, if there's a cherry tree right next to it, yeah, that's a possibility. So structure is big, because knowing the structure of the tree or the plant, you're going to be able to know what it can and can't do. But also knowing its location on top of that is also big, because you don't want to say yeah, I found this plant on a rocky surface, and then later on you go home and you check and you realize like, oh, that can't grow on a rocky surface. It needs loose soil in a wetland. So I'm going to say structure and location are both tied for number 3 for me. So we're going to do a big number 3 and do the structure of the growth and the location. And I'm not going to go crazy in depth with that, because those 3 things, for me personally, that's how I get into knowing what it is. Now, I'm going to show you a few books. Now here, I'm in Tennessee, so each location has their own books, of course. But here's some books that will put you on the right path. So like I have this one, The Wildflowers of Tennessee. It is literally a site ID book. I have this in my camera bag when I'm up in the mountains hiking, and it gives me exactly what the flowers are. Now, as you know, nature is nature. It can do whatever it wants. So let's say you think you found one of these bad boys, but it's got something different. This will let you know that like you can check it out and check it off your list of common plants or find it. And it's just, these little site guides are just fantastic. Every region has one. The back of the book says it's $22. I did not pay $22. Thrift Books is phenomenal for these plant-derived books. It is, I don't know what it says about the field, but like, they're always on there and they're always cheap. So that's where I got this guy. Another great book. Oh, where is it? Oh, here we go. Another book that was required for me to have for my field botany class is A Botanist's Vocabulary. So if there's any words I used that you don't really know, this thing is great. I kept mine after the class because I knew that once I took the class that like botany is my thing. I love plants. It has 1,300 botanical vocab words. It's easy to go through. It's got little pictures. I love pictures. It's a phenomenal book. It is worth the investment. I think I got this one for like $5 on eBay when I needed it. So again, great. Now, one that's a little bit more in-depth in plant anatomy rather than field siting, but it will give you a really good in-depth look and understanding of plants, is The Anatomy of Seed Plants. Now, this bad boy is old. I got this on Thrift Books for $2.75 last year. And I don't know what year it's from, but it's nowhere close to now. But it is a great book. It is a lot more in-depth scientific. Like it's a lot more about like the actual anatomical structures of plants. But personally, this helped me out drastically in understanding the structure and everything behind the scenes on plants, if that makes any sense. Like, that helped me out a lot. But those are some of the top things. Now, if you are really, really into field botany and plant identification, or you found something that you are convinced is new to the area or new in general, then, or, you know, if you are looking into going to college or post-grad and you want to focus plants or things of that nature, then these, and of course, every region is going to have their own. You're going to need one of these bad boys. This is a guide to vascular plants, and this is, of course, of Tennessee, from where I am and where I did my undergrad. And this is a keying book that is well used by yours truly. And, oh, we got some mud on there. And it is a book that basically, it's like a choose your own destiny style book, and you go through, and that's what keying is called in these sciences, and you go through and you find what it is, and basically you find like the family, you have to know like the substrate, you have to have, it's much easier to have a sample with you, but like we'll open up a piece right here, a gold tab, so then there's like for fern allies and true ferns, and then you go through and like it'll say aerial stems lacking quill-like leaves, and then that's the Isoetaceae. So then you would go there, or then you would go to number 2, and so on. And it's just like, I mean, if you've ever done a choose your own destiny book, is that exactly? And then your destiny is, if you're anything like me, the wrong answer at first. And then you go through, and that is a keying book, and this is like the final step of plant identification. There's site ID, which is, if you're good at it, great. This is, think of this as like empirical IDing. Like this is like, no one's gonna argue you if you're holding the plant and you go, yeah, I think this is this. Here's my step process through this book, and you set the book down. That's usually like, if you're in a room full of botanists and you have the keying book in hand, or of course they're gonna have it in their hand because no one gets rid of this book once they own it. This is actually the only book I've bought new. This is the only book I bought new through my entire undergrad because I could not find one used. And I remember approaching my professor and saying like, hey, I can't find this thing online. And she told me like, listen, you're gonna have to buy that baby new, because once you buy it, you either get rid of it and a botanist buys it, or you don't get rid of it because you're now a botanist. So I think she knew I was gonna be addicted. So yeah, that is a keying book. I wouldn't advise buying a keying book if you're a hobbyist. If you're a hobbyist that's working hand in hand with like an herbarium or something, they're gonna have these on hand. And if you live near an herbarium, just call them. They're gonna let you, like, they're gonna have these, and they'll let you ID things in-house. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to an herbarium. There's not a lot of foot traffic, and everyone there likes people. So that's that. Yeah, and that's a quick little plant ID guide. Do the 3 things here, kind of 4, but look for the flowers, check the leaves. I gave you guys some book suggestions. I'm gonna put the books in the description just in case you really are interested. Before we go, I have this sitting on my desk because I was piddling with it. If you are more of a mushroom person, Mushrooms Demystified by David Aurora. This isn't the most up-to-date keying book, but this is the keying book. Everyone I know that is a mycologist, all of my friends that are fungal and mycological grad students and experts, this is the one they reach for. They do not go for the most modern one, they go for this one. This is written by that man right there, David Aurora, who was not a mycologist, he was not a biologist. I think he was an English professor, and he traveled the country and I think the world at one point, and he ate every mushroom he found, and this is in the descriptions. And it is a book written by a guy that looks and acts like that. So if you like mushrooms, it's a great book, and it's a keying book, just like the big vascular plant book like I showed you before. It has numbers, and you go through. Does it have a white cap? When young and fresh, may discolor, go to 10, things like that. And yeah, that's keying, but keying is your final step. For the beginning plant IDs, always look for the flower. If there's no flowers, check the leaves, check the growth patterns, check their shape, see if they're glabrous, things of that nature, and then the structure of them, of the plant as a whole, and then the location at the same time. So like, if you find a vine and it's not woody, it's herbaceous, and it's growing up, and it has a palmate serrated leaf, and then you look at the structure of it and it's got little axillary pads, that's Virginia creeper. So it won't have a flower, but we see in the leaves, we see the structure of the plant and the location. So yeah, that's just how I started my plant ID journey. And yeah, I hope this helps you guys if you're looking or struggling with plant ID. So thanks guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, check out the shorts, check out the channel. I'm going to be doing at least a full-length video every week on some sort of botanical and ecological stuff. But yeah, thanks guys. See ya.